All right, we are with the champ, Keith, one-time Thurman. Keith, it is great to talk with you. Finally, my man, we got you. We are ready to rock and roll, my man. How are you, my friend? I know it took a little bit of time for us to get going, but finally
I'm
we
good,
are
man.
up and running. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it took a little bit of time. I practically just finished my lunch. I was talking to some of the fans, just waiting on this program here.
So, Keith, I want to ask you, how are you with your family? Are you guys okay? Are you guys, how are you dealing with the risk? Do you know of any?
Yeah, for the most part, the family's well. Mother's good. I spent time with her yesterday. I would always check in on her on Sundays, but it was Easter too. So I went over there, watched the movie. Uh, you know, my siblings are just all in lockdown. You know, some are working. Some aren't. It's just an interesting time, man. Especially with I stay here in a downtown location, and just every weekend to not hear any noise is just ironic.
It's crazy, right? I mean, it's unbelievable how the world has shut down because of this pandemic.
Yeah, I understand that. I think it's obviously it's deadly in a way. It seems like it's attacking people who have weak immune systems. Those are the ones that aren't surviving right now. But the worst case, and the knowledge that I didn't like when I first heard about it from one of my doctors, who's also my nutritionist, who's also one of my friends who I always go to for advice of all these kind of things. And of course, he read up on it as soon as it hit. And the first thing he told me before I ever heard it on TV was how you can hold on, how much you can be a carrier of this without knowing that you're a carrier of it. So you're walking around for 2 weeks spreading it, and then all of a sudden you have symptoms where if you have a cold or a flu, you're going to get symptoms in like 2 to 3 days. You're going to be able to know that you've come down with something. So, I understand, and from watching movies in the past, if you ever watched a movie where a virus has spread the world, it's ironically enough, it happened exactly how we predicted that it would happen through international airports, right? Like, how does something get so worldwide spread except for through international airports? So I had a gig. I don't know if you were supposed to be there in D.C., but,
Yeah,
as soon as the stuff hit,
exactly.
we had this gig, and, wifey didn't really want me to travel. She says, you're healthy, this and that, but you shouldn't play around with it. And at that time, the information was still very new.
Yes.
And they were saying only children and old people were getting affected. Then later on, we realized, 35-year-olds are being affected. A whole bunch of other different age groups and stuff are being affected. So, it's bringing everybody home. It's grounding everybody. It can be frustrating for people. But in a sense, it's bringing people back to their home. It's making people check up on their families, staying more closely knit together, But at the end of the day, everybody wants to go back to regular life. And we look forward to participating in all sorts of endeavors outside of just sports and, and going back to work.
Well, let's talk about getting back to work from your standpoint. Before all of this happened, Keith, you and I worked together in February down in Biloxi for PBC on FS1. But have you heard about, when, before all this transpired, was there a timetable for you to get back in the ring? Was it summertime? Now that this has happened, when are you anticipating getting back in the ring, assuming that the coronavirus is at least, we get back to normal life, let's say June or July?
I mean, if we're really back to normal life, then so be it. But if we are back to normal life, so we have fights that were postponed. We have events. We have venues that are going to need new dates. We have venues that might end up being new venues. There's a lot of complexities within the sport of boxing that doesn't get discussed all the time. So what bothers me is understanding a little bit of the multitude of all those complexities and then saying that I want to perform, you know. So if I was to just put a ballpark figure, like, yo, just give me a paycheck this year, right? Let me get in the ring in November. Let me get in the ring in December.
So you don't want to come back sooner than then? Is that what you're telling me?
No, it's not that I don't want to come back. There's going to be a delay process. First off, we're talking hypotheticals, okay?
Yes.
We don't know if things aren't going to be back functional till August, September, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, and sports is going to be one of the last things to come back around, because you're talking about arenas. We're talking about 25,000 people in attendance, you know? So concerts and sporting events are going to be some of the last things to come around at this time. Just with that understanding, you know, and then the delay effect of these fighters are supposed to get their fights. These fighters that were planning on fighting that, you know, kind of got pushed back. When are they going to fight? If they were going to fight in July, when are they fighting now? August, September? So now you start, like, that's why mentally I just don't see, you know, there's a part of me that almost would feel grateful just to perform this year, you know? Where is the evidence that, you know, that we're going to be able to perform? And I was joking around with some friends saying that athletes might not have jobs after Corona. They might deem, you know what, arenas with 25,000 is really not good for the sake of the people, you know? You know, with large gatherings, no, we don't need that. 10 is already a big enough number. Who has 10 friends? I can't count to 10, you know? Like, so, you know, well, I've been messing with my buddies and stuff, but at the end of the day, there just is no evidence of what's going to happen. So we'll see. We just got to take it 1 week at a time with where we're at in the world today.
Would you be okay with fighting on a closed TV set or in a studio in a controlled setting? Because we've already seen, there have been reports that there is a possibility of sports getting back to the NBA, Major League Baseball, without fans. How would you feel if they came to you and they said, Keith, we have this particular matchup on deck for you. It's going to be potentially on a TV studio.
There's a few sports that will do okay, all right? You know, I think you could probably show NASCAR without anybody in the stands. You know, they just go around in circles all day. You can probably do baseball. It's pretty boring anyways when I'm there live. You know, the action's not that intense. The best, unless if you're sitting right behind the hitter and you get to see that pitch. If you're not watching that pitch, you ain't watching baseball, man. I don't know what else you're watching. You know what I mean? To me, it ain't nothing but a pitch. You know, so you could broadcast that. You know, you could easily broadcast that. Football? I don't really know, man. Basketball? You could kind of do it, but I don't really know. There's a reason why we have arenas, and there's a reason why we have spectators. There's a reason why 25,000 people have shown up to be there in person, and then you have multiple millions of people tuning in back at home. And you know, you're an announcer, you're a commentator. You know that it makes your job easier when you say, you know, we are looking forward to tonight. We have 25,000 people here with us in attendance today. It makes your job so much easier. Can you? Well, thank you for watching and tuning in with us at home, and enjoy the show. You know, I mean, without the people, it takes away a certain dynamic. It takes away a certain energy. It takes away the humanism. It takes away the life. The life of the sport is to participate for the fans, to hear that uproar, to hear the cheers. You know, I think golf. Even golf is loud nowadays after they pump freaking a hole. Come on, man. You want to go back to silent golf? Go ask Tiger if he wants to go back to silent golf. You know, it was, you know, I mean, it's very awkward. The sporting and entertainment industry is definitely taking a hit right now this year.
Well, let's talk about hopefully things do get back to somewhat normalcy and fans are able to come out to watch you guys perform your craft at the world-class level in which you perform at. Let's discuss potential opponents for you once you're able to come back and things settle down. I know that you
I'm
mentioned.
cool with that. Let me say one more thing about fighting for the in the arena, right?
Okay.
So if we're fighting, the only thing that I would do on a boxing level is you can't have a championship match, right? I just don't think you can fulfill the shoes of a real championship match. Let's say they want me to fight some 10-rounder against somebody and pay an X for it. You know, I think we can get some level of entertainment. I don't think we can get what certain people are going to really want and deserve to see.
So you're saying that you get the juices flowing from the crowd, from the ring walk, from the place going crazy. I mean, MGM Grand, when you fought Pacquiao, was sold out and unbelievable crowd. Same thing when you fought Danny Garcia, Sean Porter at Barclays Center.
Come on, man. I mean, even when I fought Luis Collazo back in Tampa, you know,
I remember
just having my home crowd get their uproar. You know, I mean, it's very essential. It's essential. Like I said, even for the spectators, you know, it's beautiful to go to a live event. And you know, from the performers performing, getting paid, from the spectators enjoying, from the people at home, you know, the networks. There's, as a collective, because that's what we are as a society anyways, as a collective, there's more. So you want to take away a portion of the collective and then try to put on the same show. I don't think it's going to happen, you know. But, you know, when we talk about good opponents for later on, whenever I can be presented with a fight date, when the veil has been removed from this virus, you know, I'm looking at just some entertaining fights, you know, some decent matchups, something that the fans will enjoy, something that I'll enjoy. Of course, you know, honestly, every day no one's allowed to do anything makes me feel like I'm one day closer to my rematch. Because, you know,
With Manny Pacquiao,
you know, I understood after my hand surgery that he was most likely going to step in the ring before I would be prepared to step in the ring. You know, but now we're looking at a situation where we both might be prepared to step in the ring at the same time. And if that's the case, you know, I mean, the ball's in his court, but, you know, I just don't see, you know, we've seen what we've seen. I don't see when the Adrian Broner, you know, now he fought Keith Thurman. I just don't see somebody else really giving him a great fight. And I also believe that I deserve the rematch from being the undefeated welterweight champion at the time. You know, it wasn't in my clause, but everything's up for negotiation. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. And this time has only given me more time to prepare and maybe line up in sync with his future date. You know, if it's so.
Have you talked to those that are your handlers about a rematch with Pacquiao as things have slowed down in the world economically and there, you know, everyone is, we don't know when the next fight is going to happen. Have you made, you know, overtures to your people about that?
No, you know, for the most part, right before the virus hit, I mean, the way I saw it, I mean, I was ready for a fight date. You know, I was ready for maybe about 3 months out. Give me about, you know, and give me 12 weeks. Give me a fight. You know, I was thinking end of the summer-ish. You know,
That's when you wanted to come back.
The later part of summer, I was open to come back. So with all that in mind, you know, now, like I said, it just gets pushed further. For me, last year, performing while having 2 performances while injured, you know, this year I'm just trying to hold on to my health and have 1 performance, maintain health, brush off the dust, and then hopefully next year go back into 2 fights a year and make things exciting again, you know, because it did feel good to have 2 fights, and it doesn't feel good. There was a portion of me that wanted to push to try to manifest 2 this year, but I know that wasn't going to happen, especially as soon as I started to recover and I realized it was going to take a few more weeks to build up the strength that I needed to punch the way I need to punch. But at the end of the day, all I want to do is just be healthy and be fighting again active, you know, regardless of being champion of the world once again. I just know my career is not over, and there's a lot of exciting fights in the welterweight division, and I think they all end in Thurman. Thurman versus.
Do you feel like you've been unfairly criticized by some who say that it has been, you know, that it's unfortunate that you have been inactive, you've been dealing with injuries, you had the elbow injury, you had the hand injury, but do you feel like at times that you've been unfairly criticized by the media and some fans around the world, or do you feel it's justified?
You know, I mean, how are you supposed to have just criticism? You know, how are you supposed to have fair criticism? And even if you are given, you know, some fair criticism from time to time, you're not going to be given that, you know, 24/7. You know,
no.
So you know, once when the critics come out, I mean, it is what it is, right? It's like a thief in the night, man. Once when the critics come out, they're out, you know, and they're gonna hit you from every different angle, just like the fighters try to do. That's probably the fun thing about a critic. Like, oh, I'm gonna hit him good. I'm gonna hit him when it hurts, you know. But at the end of the day, what people really don't understand, the one thing that I can say right here and now, is that this is my life, and this is my dream. So anything that I wasn't able to do is not because I didn't want to do it. You know, I'm just trying to live out my best life. To me, I'm so grateful for manifesting all that I've desired since the age of 7. You know, not too many people can really say that. And, you know, to walk a successful path or to not be successful, you know, what did Thurman always say? I'm not afraid to let it go. If you can beat me, beat me. You know, it's not about winning forever. It's about forever challenging yourself, you know? And if I fought, you know, in Tampa as a pro my whole career, I could be 50-0. I could have a record superior to Floyd Mayweather's. You know, it's not about that. It's about climbing the ladder of a sport that I've admired since my childhood, since my youth. That, you know, I was striving to be an Olympian, and then after falling short of that, I've strived to be a world champion. And, you know,
well, you've done that.
Champion, former unified champion of the world. And you know, to me, I had a young man in college just the other day. It's my friend's son, and he told me, he was like, you know, what does success mean to you? And I said, you know, well, what does success mean to you? I said, well, if you really want to hear my opinion, the bottom line is to set a goal and to achieve it, right? If you want to lose 5 pounds and you lost 5.5 pounds, you're a great success. You know, and think of the emotion that you go through when you set a goal and you achieve it. It's rewarding, you know, and I believe that simple emotion, that feeling, that reward, that is success, you know. So, you know, another thing for me is I always just wanted to be true to who I am, you know, try not to let money change me too much, fame change me too much, and just live this life and you know, box my heart out and just enjoy the journey.
Keith, let's talk about another man in the welterweight division. We had on Errol Spence last Monday, and one of the comments that he said was that he has no interest in fighting you. He said that you are fake. He said when he was coming up that you didn't give him the opportunity when he was calling you out. Therefore, why should he do that for you? What is your take on Errol Spence?
Well, that's interesting. You know, look, to me, it don't make that much sense. You know, at the end of the day, I remember, you know, what, am I supposed to argue the same thing? Floyd never gave me a chance. I got a chance with Manny after, you know, almost 22 months of inactivity when I wanted to fight at 25 years old. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that happens. You know, the only thing is he's in a power position, so he has the luxury to say whatever he wants out of his mouth and just stay true to it because he holds power by being the current unified champion in the welterweight division. You know, and I respect that. You know, I know what it's like to be in that position. At the end of the day, I remember when Sean Porter, I wanted to fight Sean Porter. I've yet to become champion of the world. Sean just got his hands on the IBF.
The IBF, yep.
And I wanted to fight Sean Porter. And Kenny Porter said, there's no need to fight Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman doesn't have a belt. We'll fight him when he gets a belt, because we know he will one day. We'll fight him when he gets a belt, and we can unify, and then the winner fights Floyd Mayweather. And those are the exact words of Kenny Porter at that time, okay? Mm-hmm. And then months go by. I show up to his fight. He loses to Kell Brook. Sean Porter's no longer champion of the world. Few months go by. Keith Thurman becomes champion of the world. More time goes by. I defended this and that. Then comes an opportunity to fight Sean Porter. Now, I wanted this fight a few years ago, and I wanted the fight when he was champion. Now I have the opportunity to fight him when I'm champion. And, you know, I felt what Errol said. I felt that emotion before. Like, you know what? I should diss him right now so he knows what it's like when you want a belt and then somebody don't want to give you your shot. You know, but at the end of the day, I had the confidence that, yeah, let's sign the fight because I wanted it several years ago because I was going to beat you at that time, and I'll sign it today because I'll beat you tomorrow, you know? And that's how I felt. At the end of the day, what does Errol Spence want for his career, you know? I mean, he can say whatever he wants to say about Keith Thurman and fakeness, this and that, but there really aren't that many more great welterweight fights. There's no great welterweight matchups. You don't know what you are in the welterweight division if you have never seen Keith Thurman, because we know who Sean Porter is. We know who Danny Garcia is. You know, when it comes to the young guys, and I've been the dude at the top since I was young, always at the semifinals and finals of the nationals. I won 7 national tournaments. I'm used to being at the top. You know, I remember my first pro fight. I got paid $1,000. I used to tell people back in those days that, you know, the reason why I was knocking everybody out is because they can't afford a fighter to beat Keith Thurman. How much money does it cost to beat Keith Thurman, whatever the hell Pacquiao just made? Okay? That's how much money it costs to beat Keith Thurman. You can't just get the tough guy. You can't get the tough guy from some foreign country, Argentina, Mexico. What was it, that Zavid guy I fought coming up? Like, you bring people from all over the world. Bundu, he was an Olympian. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you want. You know, at the end of the day, I believe that, you know, to this day, I still believe, belt, no belt, Keith Thurman's the welterweight division. I bring
those comments though?
Fights. I make the best fights. Put Keith Thurman in the ring with your favorite fighter. He's going to make the best fight.
But Keith, do those comments upset you? Do they aggravate you? Is it more in your mind just another prize fighter talking?
The lack of somebody's understanding never really, you know, I try not to let that get to me, you know, because when you understand that they don't understand, then you can let it slide, you know. And then another thing too, you know, like I said, like, you know, I live this, man. You know, I know how hard I punch. I know how they respect me, you know. In retrospect, when I reflected on how much Manny Pacquiao kept his hands up in the fight, that's 100% respect from round 1 to round done. Manny Pacquiao doesn't fight people with his hands. You see Manny Pacquiao? You see Manny Pacquiao fight like this a lot?
Not really.
You see Manny Pacquiao fight like this a lot?
Not really.
Not really.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And those are certain aspects of dynamics that people don't understand, that all I need is a certain things to know that I got the respect of a real fighter. You know, he got my respect, I got his respect. Even normally, even if I've knocked somebody out, if I've shared the ring with them, they've normally found some way to get my respect. You know what I mean? Even if I
Mhm.
knock them out in the duration of that fight, it doesn't matter. If I share the ring with you most of the time, it's just a thing. And real fighters know that. Boxers, MMA fighters, people who's participated in those kind of sports, they all understand that emotion.
Keith, on your Instagram last week, you came out on Thursday, I believe, and you said that the beast is coming back, I believe. What does that mean? Is it the fact that you want to go ahead and moving forward, once all this is behind us, that you want to prove once again, from a belt standpoint, that you are the best welterweight in the world? Is that what that meant? What did that Instagram post mean?
You know, I just believe that I have more to give, you know. It was fortunate or unfortunate for me that I had all these ailments coming into one of the biggest fights of my career. And the lack of the outside of the lack of what I didn't do to win in the fight, outside
Against Pacquiao, yeah.
there was a lot in preparation for that fight that was very uncomfortable for me in my training camp, you know. So
Do you want to dive into that? You want to tell us,
No,
or do you want to
it's
keep that in-house?
No, you know, it's just training with injuries, preparing for fighting with an injury. But fighting with the injury means you prepared while injured. Your preparation, and like I keep saying, because a lot of things, there's a lot to do when you reflect on something. There's a lot of information you can get from it when you reflect on it. So when I look at my training camp, of course I know how hard I trained. But when I really look at my training camp, I start to see where, you know, being injured didn't help. You know, how I cut sparring short multiple times throughout camp. You know, and of course we knew that was going to be a thing, but I've been through camps where I didn't get a lot of sparring. You know, you make it up with mitt work, this and that. You got to focus on your hand-eye coordination, other things. You know, so I've done that in the past, and I've done so much in the past, which allowed me to step in the ring with so much confidence. You know, I've been injured, I've been through this, I've been through that. You know, I'm a true warrior, And like I say too, another thing, at the end of the day, knowing what I really went through, I went through all that to lose by 1 point. And ego or not, I mean, that almost means like I'm still almost unstoppable. Like I easily can boost my ego with this knowledge, you know. I went through so much, 22 months layoff. It took so much negative things to happen to Keith Thurman for Keith Thurman to lose by 1 point. So do you know what happens if I get back to anything to where I'm harmonious again, to where health is aligned, to where, you know, the main key for this year and going into next year and for the rest of my career is no more losing 35 pounds for a training camp. You know, I did that twice last year. So I lost 35 pounds for Jose Cito Lopez, gained the weight back, lost 35 pounds for Manny Pacquiao. That's 70 pounds. That Keith Thurman.
Why is that, Keith? Why is that? Is it because, look, and I ask fighters all the time, in that you guys are making a lot more money, so I assume that you're probably eating better, you know, great, you know, good steaks, good seafood, everything else. Is it the fact that you're able to eat better? Or why go up, or is that just a thing that has been a habit of yours, or what is it?
Eating better has something to do with it, you know. And when you're somebody like me who's been boxing since childhood, you know, boxing isn't a seasonal sport. It's all year round. But eventually, when you've been doing it all year round for, you know, 15 years or more, and then you become a pro, at the start of your pro career, you're doing 4-round fights. So you're doing many. Then you do 6-rounders. You're still doing as much as you can. Then you get into 8-rounders. That's where things start to slow down. Your life as a boxer starts to slow down as an 8-round fighter. So it's really just a bad habit of tendencies that we get into as fighters. But when you're no longer amateur and you're professional and you get to an 8-round level and you start to get gaps in between fights, then you get to the 10-round level. Then when you hit the championship level, you get the largest gap. And this is natural. This is just natural. It's because the preparation for a singular fight can be 10 to 12, let's say 8 for a 12-round fighter, depending on how their health, they're 22, 28, whatever, anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, in preparation. Then you have the performance that could likely be a 12-round performance, took some hits, take some headbutts, this and that. You got to recover from that. And really, it's the habit we get into from going from one fight to the next. Because once when you're a world champion, it's like your Iverson, baby. It's like your Iverson. Practice? Like, show up for practice. Like, what are we practicing on, baby? Like, this Keith one-time Thurman. Like, what are we practicing on? But a tool needs to be sharp. So it's just a habit. And you've seen many champions go through this to where they're sharp, then they go through whatever kind of training camp, they have a fight performance and they're dull. And then they're depressed because they lost. Their trainers try to get them another fight, but he still doesn't have that fire under him, and he's dull again. So yeah, man. To me, it's just the emotions of a fighter, and then just some bad habits, some bad tendencies. I work so hard that I love to indulge and splurge and have cheesecake, a whole one to my self. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then once when you indulge and you overindulge, and then you get in the habit of indulging, and then you sit around and it's just to each their own. But it was some tendencies later on in my career, not in my early 20s and 25, 26. It was for me, it happened with the Sean Porter fight. Sean Porter, I fought him once that year. I fought Danny once that year. And then I had 2 years off, just had 2 more fights. And now I'm practically about to be coming up on a year off, and I'm trying to have another fight. One fight a year is not where you need to be as an athlete. It's just way too inactive, and that's why I do believe that, obviously the Keith Thurman that fought Manny Pacquiao was not the greatest Keith Thurman of all times. It wasn't even the Keith Thurman of the old times, in my personal opinion. Another thing when it comes to being a monster and a beast is just acknowledging your strengths and your weaknesses. And one of them for me is my power. And I've boxed so much. I've enjoyed using my IQ and finessing victories. And for once, in the last time, I needed that knockout. And if not the knockout, at least the knockdown. But you don't get the knockdown without going for the knockout, right?
Yeah.
So I needed that. I needed, in the heat of the moment, a moment that I haven't been in for a very long time. In the heat of the moment, I needed the real do it now or never do it. And
so we're going to see more of an aggressive.
The killer wasn't in me that night. Manny Pacquiao got away. The killer wasn't in me that night, and it was an awakening. It was an awakening for me, and I'm hoping to utilize that as motivation. And I think we saw it with Victor Ortiz back in the day when Victor Ortiz beat Andre Berto. He came off of a horrific loss, not even a loss, a horrific loss, and then came back. Didn't really dominate. He had his ups and downs, but put on a terrific performance. And it was because the fire was ignited again. It's because he wanted to see his own personal greatness again. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm striving for now.
So does that make you, the fact that you said that you couldn't get the knockdown against Pacquiao, does that make you more aggressive in fights now moving forward? Because, when you were coming up as a contender, you were wiping guys out. And as you move up in competition, naturally they're not going to fall. That is a thing when it comes to being a prize fighter. Yeah. Because the level of competition is raised, yet you still pulled out victories, with the exception of the loss to Pacquiao. But does that make you become more aggressive and say, okay, I have this boxing IQ, but I need to be a little bit more aggressive and start stepping more to guys like how I did when I was coming up as a contender?
Definitely. Like I keep saying, in retrospect, when I look back on my sparring, I sparred way too much on my back foot, and I fought way too much on my front foot, right? So how are you training on your back foot and then performing on your front foot, right? So, that frustrated me a little bit. Another thing, too, is I just got to let my hands go. One of the things that didn't allow me to let my hands go is the knowledge in the back of my head. As I'm trying to hurt you, I might be hurting me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what really allowed me not to pull the trigger that night, because it's you got to go beyond another barrier. It's not even like, do I want to just swing for the fence? I'm trying to hit a home run. It's not even gathering up the courage to just swing at it, at a fastball. It's not even just trying to get up that courage, but the fact that, making contact might not be good for you. Making contact, you need to make this contact, but making that contact might not be good for you. So having that little thing in the back of my head, I'm just learning how much of a crutch it really was, how much of a splinter. I always tried to like nullify it, dumb it down. Of course I had to. I got to prepare for this fight. So I'm not trying to make it into the world's biggest deal or anything, but it did a lot more. That's why I'm getting back into my meditation, because even with just mental visualization prior to the fight, I think I could have performed better. It's such little minute things. When you lose by 1 point, you can almost blame the world. You can blame the refs. You can blame everything. So there's a lot of small things that I believe that I could have done, that I've always wanted to do too. I've always wanted to do it to bring the best out of myself. So now that I wasn't able to cheat, I wasn't able to slip away and stay at the top, or stay undefeated, even with all my circumstances, because that could have done something to my ego. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten hand surgery. Maybe I would have said, nah, I just beat Pacquiao with this. Let me go make another paycheck. Tell the doctors.
So is this more a blessing than anything, Keith, in your opinion? Could this be a blessing in disguise for you, that 1 point loss at the hands of Manny Pacquiao?
A little bit, because the performance was terrific. And I mean, ultimately, I still want that rematch. If he's going to hold on to that belt, if he wants to be the WBA Super Welterweight Champion of the world, I still want my rematch. Because, like I said, I do believe that I have all that it takes to be the biggest problem, like I once was, and I believe I always will be one of the biggest problems in the welterweight division. And I believe that I can get my position back. And that's another thing that also solidifies truly great champions like Muhammad Ali. It's not about just getting in position. It's that even if you lose your position, you have what it takes to take it back, to take it right back. And that's what I would love to do after this coronavirus.
What do you want to tell all these welterweights, the guys, aside from Pacquiao, the guys like Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford? Those guys are among the top of the list, along with you, at 147. What do you want to tell all of them as we move forward with Keith Thurman?
Crawford knows he can get it. I'm a very simple man when it comes to the fight world and doing business. You know what I mean? Be real. Send the contract. Watch me sign it. You know what I mean?
You're saying, you're telling me that if Terrence Crawford, who is a champion right now, for some reason, if the fight with Pacquiao cannot manifest itself, but you're telling me that if Terrence Crawford and they would send a contract and say, we want Keith Thurman, if the financials are right, you'd be okay with it? You would do it?
Of course. There's no
next fight.
Next fight. I could debate on it. Of course, I wouldn't. Part of me wouldn't like it, because I would respect that Crawford is a champion who's always in shape. Of course, I'd want to be prepared for that, coming off of everything that I've come off of. If it's not exactly what I want, which is the Manny Pacquiao rematch, there are good fights out there that are good fights to let me reinstate some form of dominance in the welterweight division and then go right into a Crawford or Spence. That's another thing. If I'm presented with a contract, you know, if I'm presented with both at the same time, I'll go Spence over Crawford. Spence has
You'd go Spence over Crawford.
Spence has priority over Crawford. Outside of the political,
You're not talking anything politically. I'm just asking. I'm literally asking
that,
you.
At the end of the day, he has 2 belts. You know, he has more pull, more weight in the welterweight division. Terrence Crawford has done tremendous throughout his whole career. I'm still not a fan of the belt that he holds. So I'm more interested in the matchup and the fight itself over being champion of that sanctioning body. But at the end of the day, you know, I love great fights. I love being champion of the world. So, you know, if I'm presented with those kind of opportunities, I'm not going to hesitate. You know, I'm not going to wait. I might take it. You know, I might take it. Right? What?
So in order of
November, birthday fight.
So in order of your wish list, it sounded like Pacquiao's number 1, Spence is number 2, Crawford is number 3 when it comes to Keith Thurman's wish list. Is that correct?
Okay, yes. So let's look. Major fight. Keith Thurman's back in the ring, ready to entertain the world. Pay-per-view even, you know? That has to be those 3 names, right? It has to be those 3 names. Now, outside of that, you know, back in the ring, Thurman versus Danny, and the winner gets an eliminator against Spence or Pacquiao. Obviously, it wouldn't be a Crawford for political reasons, right?
Yeah.
So, if that's the case, you know, then so be it. And that not only is that a great match, not only is that a great rematch, but then it would lead into another great fight, possible Pacquiao rematch or Spence. And then, you know, so I just see that that's the kind of boat that I'm in. I either do something that's really nice for now that leads into something great, or let's just do it. Let's just do the dang thing. Let's just do another great event. I have to admit, I'm a little addicted to big shows. You know, I mean, there's just an energy, there's just a liveliness to it. I get fully satisfied from being a part of such a big event. The fans get so much satisfaction, and then I just deliver with the entertainment, and it is what it is.
How much longer? How do you feel in terms of your career-wise? How much longer do you want to go in your career? Because in my opinion, I feel like you're in the prime of your career right now. How much longer? Have you thought about that? Or is it like, let me go as long as I can? I mean, fighters have different perspectives. Some guys say I'm done before 40. Other guys say, you know, a certain financial amount. For Keith Thurman, have you thought about how long you want to go? Or is that not even in your perspective right now?
Oh, yeah. You know, I've never really been a big fan of like going to like, 38 or 37 or those kind of numbers. You know, I would like to get the job done a little sooner than that. Get all the big fights that I want, and just leave knowing that I did my best in the sport that I love, and then you know, sit aside alongside you and work the fights or something, you know. But for right now, it's just year by year, and last year I went through it in pain. Now I'm no longer in pain. I'm hoping to withstand that. I'm hoping to withstand my health, and hoping to squeeze, at least right now, we must continue for 3 more years. We got 3 more years, and we just got to look at our health. So pretty much, I think like when I'm 31 now, so it's like every 2 or 3 years, you just got to check yourself and just make sure like, hey, you healthy? You really up for this? Can you really do it? You can still run 8 miles, Okay, let's go. So we'll see. But I think 35 is kind of like a good done.
It's a good number for you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of done. It's to live the life, I turned pro at 19 years old. So, you can't do it forever. Maybe I will push it. Maybe maybe this injury is the last injury I'll ever suffer, and will just strengthen my body, and I'll work with a lot of physical therapists, and maybe I'll be strong and healthy at 37 still in the ring. But that's not the end game.
I'd be okay with that.
Now the end game would be to finish sooner. But if I can do it, I'll do it, man. I would love to. There's been athletes like Bernard Hopkins who did it for much longer. But, you know, the welterweight division is just such a talent-filled division. And then, you know, you get all sorts of different shapes and sizes of monstrous guys. You get these 6-footers. You get all these different shapes and sizes from and we got a whole bunch of new talent that's going to be coming up. I'm excited for the world of boxing. You know, I was really looking forward to the Olympics, you know, but as long as they're just carrying it 1 year, we still have something to look forward to next year. It's still going to be a summer games. It's unfortunate. I really was looking forward to going to Tokyo, but hopefully I will be able to be there next year. Regardless, I want to see the young talent. I want to see the young athletes, and just support boxing, and then get it and mark that off my bucket list. You know, Olympics. Always wanted to attend.